As more and more of us now are wearing face masks, it's important to learn how to accurately spot emotions. Our face is the best indicator of our emotions. The face and its expressions, also known as micro-expressions, are the window to the soul. The good news is we can tell a lot about someone by their face if you know how to read them. So stay with me till the end. I will show you how to read a person's facial emotion, and you can also test on yourself on how well you do after this video. Hello and welcome back. My name is Wendy. I'm a professional brand image consultant and the director of Brandimage International Institute. Today our topic is on how do you read a person's face even when someone is wearing a mask. But first, I want to tell you a story of a person by the name of Dr. Paul Ekman and his interesting research on facial expressions. Back in the 1800s, Charles Darwin was the first to suggest that facial expressions of emotions were the same wherever you go in the world. At the time, the majority of the scientific community disagreed with this theory. It wasn't until the late 20th century, when Dr. Paul Ekman and his team did a research on facial expressions, that we began to see substantial evidence that Charles Darwin was indeed correct. When Dr. Ekman first began his research on facial expressions of emotions, he initially had the opposite view of Charles Darwin. Ekman believed that facial expressions were socially learned and therefore culturally variable. For instance, if you were born and raised in US, you would have different facial expressions if you were to grow up in Asia. Dr. Ekman then set out on a research quest that would take him around the world to study facial expressions of many different cultures to see if Charles Darwin's theory could be countered. The first 5 countries that Dr. Ekman went to was Chile, Argentina, Brazil, Japan, and the US. He showed people from these countries photographs of individuals displaying different facial expressions of emotion and asked them to judge what emotion they thought was being displayed in each photograph. The vast majority of the individuals from the 5 cultures had similar answers. So, this proved one thing. Although they are from different cultures, their facial expressions were the same. But Ekman was not fully convinced. He asked, what if these 5 different cultures had all grown up watching the same movies or TV shows? Could it be that they learned all from the same place? Perhaps they learned it from media or from some actors, for example. To test his theory, Dr. Ekman came up with a solution. Why not go and find a culture that is completely isolated from the world? No TV, no magazines, no tourists. This led him and his team of researchers to the highlands of Papua New Guinea to meet with a remote and primitive tribe for his research. Equipped with a few simple stories and images of facial expressions, Ekman headed into the remote camp and asked each of the tribesmen to match a story to an expression. Ekman prompted the tribesmen with different scenarios. The enemy approaches. Friends have come. The child has died. The tribesmen were then asked to point to a photograph of a Western face to match with the story. Later on, Dr. Ekman would do the same with the Westerners as well, asking them to judge the expressions of the Papua New Guinean faces. And guess what? Darwin was right. All facial expressions, regardless of where you are in the world, are indeed universal. Interesting story, right? Dr. Ekman then designated 7 facial expressions that are the most widely used and easily interpreted, namely happy, sad, fear, disgust, anger, contempt, and surprise. I truly believe that knowing how to read people's faces is one of the most crucial people skills that everyone should know. Now let's take a test and see how good you are in reading facial emotions. happens when everyone wears a mask? Can you still read them? Check your answers. Did you get all correct? I will now show you each facial expression with and without a mask for you to see the differences. Identifying facial expression is just a small part of body language. We will look into other areas in our next episode. In the meantime, if you find this video useful, do click like, share and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you again soon.